This is Propulsion, the podcast where we dive deep into the nitty-gritty of taking your business and your practice to the next level. Whether you are an entrepreneur, a franchisee, or a financial planning pro, you are in the right place. We're talking the latest tech, best practices, and expert insights, all while keeping it real and entertaining. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's get ready to blast off. I'm your host, Francois de Toy. I'm really excited this morning in today's episode. Happy to chat and introduce you to the finalists for this year's Financial Planner of the Year. And we've done this in all the previous years. So really excited to once again be able to showcase these three phenomenal individuals that are really at the top of their game. And looking forward to see who will be crowned the Financial Planner of the Year at the Gala Dinner Awards evening right here in Cape Town. So looking forward to that. So let me introduce you to the wonderful finalists. At the top there, you've got Rudolph Geldenhuys, you've got Rudolph, and you've got Gareth Collier, and finally we've got René van der Spreng. And looking forward to chat to you guys and to get to know a little bit more about you. Rudolph, let's start off with you. If you can just briefly tell us a little bit about yourself, the firm that you work for, and then we'll get into some more of the harder questions for this morning.
Absolutely. It's wonderful to be here with you this morning. My name is Rudolph. I'm from beautiful Cape Town. I live in the heart of the Durbanville winelands. I turned 33 this year, married to a beautiful wife, got two incredible little boys, and I'm a senior financial planner at Wealth Up.
Fantastic. Well, welcome, Rudolph. Looking forward to chatting to you. Gareth, yourself?
Yeah, similar to Rudolph, I'm down in Cape Town. Glad to say it's a little bit sunnier. But originally from up in Durbs, so these Cape Town winters are brutal on me. Also married with one little girl, and yeah, I'm one of the directors and financial advisors here at Crew Invest.
So it seems like it's okay, Gareth, because yesterday I chatted to Lihana, who's doing the Microsoft Excel training for us, and she's in Natal, and it's apparently very cold if you're a Durbanite, so not missing out on much at the moment. René, warm welcome to the show. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Francois, good morning to you and to Rudolph and Gareth as well. So I'm up in Joburg. I'm with a company called Apex Private Wealth. Almost 2 decades in the financial services industry. Also married. I have twins who are about 2.5 years old, so they keep me very busy. And yeah, just really excited and looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you very much, and warm welcome to you. Right, so usually with this segment, where we look at the Financial Planner of the Year finalists, we tend to focus a lot on the actual process and what it's about and all of that. But I think by now, everybody gets what it's about. Today, I really want to get to know these three finalists. So looking forward to asking them some very specific questions directed at each of them. And the whole purpose with this is for us to get to know them a little bit better, how they approach financial planning and all of that good stuff. So Gareth, I'm going to start with you. And the business that you work for is Crew Invest, who are also the FPI's Professional Practice of the Year last year. The winners there, so big congrats on that as well. A phenomenal team that you work with, but they are known for being fiercely independent and your fee-based financial planners, etc. But how does this, being fiercely independent, influence your approach specifically when you need to create bespoke financial plans for your clients?
Yeah, I think that independence probably typically comes from the fact that a lot of the planners within the business have backgrounds in various of the sort of the insurance companies. So we've kind of felt that tied agent space. So I think being able to be an independent business allows us to, put together financial plans and approaches for clients, which are very much sort of needs and objective based first, and then enabled by plans and products, rather than being in a space where you are kind of, having to filter that through first and foremost the product set before you can kind of design a solution for a client. So, the team understands kind of the importance and the value of that independence, and being able to really kind of lean into the client discussions, and spend the vast majority of our time getting to know the people, understanding what those needs and objectives are, and thereafter being able to kind of craft that custom bespoke solution with sort of best of breed in the marketplace, to enable that sort of objective. And then, of course, planning today is one thing, but planning is not a static process. So it is dynamic. So as things develop and change in time, it gives us that flexibility to kind of move in and out of solutions where it's appropriate for clients.
Yeah, fantastic. And then René, if I can come to you for this one, I mean, you specialize in managing local and offshore investment portfolios for high net worth individuals. I'm also quite keen, like, from your perspective and working with that specific target market, what do you find are some of the unique challenges and opportunities that you encounter specifically, as I mentioned, with those high net worth individuals, and how do you address them?
Yeah, I think for those kind of clients, it's kind of multifaceted. The first thing they're looking for is diversification, and from the different aspects as well, having a good mix of assets and investments locally as well as offshore. Then, if you sort of look at that, they're looking at the underlying holdings of those various investments. And then it goes sort of a step further. It's the tax strategies. Being high net worth, tax is always going to be a burden for them. So whether it's South African tax or global taxation, and what you're seeing is that we've become a global village. So global taxation, whether you're a tax resident in South Africa or elsewhere, this global taxation is an element that we continuously have to cover. And then I think the most important thing is the estate duty implications. So, clients are getting older. The issues around intergenerational wealth is a concern for them. And these clients, typically, the way they view and deal with their finances is kind of a constitution that they have within the family. And that's not always communicated and passed on down to their children. So, with these comprehensive plans and the communication we have with clients, is that you build this relationship with those clients and their children and maintain those relationships with the children. And what you also see is that the majority of those kids also live overseas with immigration. So, it's about getting intimately involved, that estate planning, the intergenerational wealth, and then looking at the wills, the investments on a sort of a very detailed, comprehensive basis, and trying to make sure that you've kind of got every base covered from that perspective.
Yeah, amazing. And it's quite, I would say, interesting and dynamic work, I'm pretty sure as well. So Rudolph, I've got a bit of a more of a probably a personal, very personal question for you, if you're okay with that. You are also very actively involved in your local church and your community. It's one of the things that you pride yourself on. And how do these engagement, I guess, influence your financial planning philosophy, the way that you go about things, and the way that you interact with your clients?
Franco, I'm so grateful to be part of an incredible personal community, as well as the most wonderful professional community. And I am a product of my community. Who I am and what I get to do is directly related to who's speaking into my life and who's influencing me. And that clearly comes through in my personal financial planning philosophy, the philosophy we have as a business, and the way that I interact with our clients. And it's very simple. I get to do what I get to do, and the way in which we do it, because of the help and guidance and advice of other individuals as well as other professionals. And our business processes, our client engagements, the financial planning experience we take clients through has been shaped by the influences in my life. And I believe it's made me a better human, and it's made me a better planner, because I realized through being in so many different people's worlds how much they need assistance, and how we've got to continuously hone our human abilities to connect with people at a deeper level, to get to a better understanding of the why behind their what. And it's just been the most incredible journey to bring more of myself into our financial planning experience and into the way that I engage with clients.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I really love it. So René, I'm going to come back to you with the next question. And, one of the things that I believe, I remember back in the day when I became a certified financial planner, like one of the things that you absolutely get taught and almost drilled into you, and it becomes part of who you are and your vocabulary, is basically like holistic financial planning, right? And it took me quite a while to figure out what that practically meant, because what the book says about holistic financial planning and how we go about it in practice is vastly different in my experience. But I'm quite keen, like I know that you also very much focused on holistic financial planning, and I'm keen to sort of learn from you. If you can tell us a little bit more about how you go about that and how you do that practically with your clients to ensure that holistic approach.
Sure. I think the start that we have, Francois, is that we go to the first meeting with a client and we don't take any documents with or anything of that nature. It's a detailed, in-depth discussion with the client. So I think, as Rudolph says, you are there to build a relationship and foster a deeper relationship with clients, but to have that initial communication, to take a step back and start that sort of deeper listening. I think it's very easy to fall into sort of the advice monster trap, where you kind of ask the questions, you want to have a solution. We've taken a little bit of a different approach to say, let's take, a step back. Let's try and understand what the deeper needs are, why those needs are there, what's the relationship with money, past experiences, and things like that, and then to slowly become that trusted partner to clients. So that's sort of the first step, and then you go away from that and you start doing the fact finding, and you don't just look at the investments in isolation. You look at the life cover, you look at risk cover, you look at the broader balance sheet, both sides of the balance sheet for that client, and then you move on to sort of tax and estate planning. So, that initial step is sort of the first very important step, and one where you can get a lot of that sort of unspoken information from the client, and then from there, you go through the various processes and sort of the 6-step process as identified by the FPI, and then jurisdictions and things like that. So it kind of all melts together like a perfect recipe at the end of the day, sort of cherry picking all the things and then putting that into a detailed plan for clients. And yeah, no two clients are the same. So I think you put together a plan that has a long-term nature. It needs to be flexible and that you're then able to adapt, because life is unpredictable. So to be able to adapt that various proposal and those implementation strategies for those clients over a period of time.
Yeah, and I just want to stand still a little bit there and just quickly ask, from a practical point of view, like if you think about your clients, like is holistic financial planning from your point of view something that you do in every single engagement with the client, or is it something that's spread along the journey and over time you sort of get to look at all the aspects, or is it something that you try and do right up front with them?
I think you always try and do the best that you can up front and try and get as much of that information, but clients are not always going to share everything with you. So, that's part of the journey that you walk, and ideally you want everything up front. But as you say, it's something that evolves over time. The relationship evolves over time and things like that, and you continuously then develop that plan.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. Righty. So let me jump back to Gareth there for a minute, Gareth. So I know one of the things that you always talk about as well is the importance of professionalizing the financial planning industry or the financial advice industry from that point of view. What do you think would be the steps that we would need to take in order for us to continue to drive us more and more towards professionalism in financial planning?
Yeah, I think if you if you think about the concept of professionalism, it's actually a choice. It's one thing to simply state I'm a professional in this, but you got to first understand, well, what does that mean? I think we've got legislation and compliance in place that dictates, sort of the best practice in terms of protecting the interests of clients. But is that your minimum standard, or do you choose to go way above and beyond that? And I feel like that's where professionalism starts to step in. And for people to want to treat people like that, I think they need to view this sort of line of work that we do. We often talk about an industry, but for me, when we use that word industry, it feels like you're pumping out production and products and that, whereas a profession is something that's more of an engaged calling. And therefore, I think if you're going to try attract the right people who want to treat it like that, they need to view it as a profession. And therefore, I think something like the CFP status, is it's not mandated. You can operate as a so-called financial planner within South Africa without having to hold a CFP. But I think if you really want to be professional and view, first and foremost, view yourself as a professional. I think you need to take the steps that will, kind of reflect outwardly what you feel inwardly. So I think it's how you look after people, and then the ability to look after them. So kind of taking your study seriously, um, adding to that, going beyond the sort of bare minimum, and yeah, really it's a choice. It shouldn't really be a like a marketing differentiator. It should really just be a case of like, I'm here to stand as a professional financial advisor, uh, not maybe just somebody who's a little bit more attuned with products and how they work, and I'm able to kind of guide you on what to buy. So I think with as this as we move forward, in the same breath, I think the professionalization of this industry is actually still quite young. We haven't really kind of been operating with this mindset, I think, for very long. When you look at how long products have been available in terms of advice, so I think it's up to everybody involved uh, to kind of lead that charge and understand what that is and communicate to people what that means. Um, and and there, I think you're going to attract people who are looking for a professional vocation one day, who are going to say, look, that sounds really appealing. That speaks to me. I want to do that for people as well. And I think the more we get that out there, the more and more high quality people are going to start stepping into sort of financial services, and in particular financial advice, and see it as a true profession.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Gareth. And then Rudolph, talking about qualifications and learning and continuous learning and all that good stuff. You've got quite an impressive academic background in financial planning yourself. There's also a summa cum laude, achievement in there and all of that. So you obviously love studying, I guess, but you also love using these things in practice. But how has your academic journey shaped your entire approach to financial planning and all your client interactions and all of that?
I have to be honest, I was a very average academic student at school, and it's only really in my university and post-university studies where my academic achievements really came into play. And I'm a testament of, if you are passionate about a topic or about something, you'll put the effort in. So I'm not an academic by nature, don't love studying, but I did well in it because I loved it. And I think I could see the practical implications of getting some of these topics under wraps. And my academic journey has given me tools in my toolkit. It's given me an in-depth understanding of the different and important areas and elements of financial planning. And it's allowed me to distill sometimes difficult concepts, which our profession is full of, into bite-sized, digestible pieces of information that allows clients to take their next steps. And it's interesting how, if you are in a position where you can educate someone, that's actually the most trustworthy place to be in an individual or a client's life. And we have the opportunity to do that on a daily basis. So by focusing on the academic side and then trying to distill it into something that somebody can use. And I look back over my career over the last 11 years, and to see how I started out and how I do things now, it's chalk and cheese. And it obviously came through the hard learnings. And it's just a wonderful position to be in, to sit in a room with a client and being able to take them through a part of our process, a part of financial planning, and seeing those aha moments, seeing that light bulb moment. And it wasn't a technical explanation. It wasn't, more often than not, in my case at least, it's not something very high level or fancy. It's just breaking down the uncertainty that a client's facing due to something that they read or something that they experienced, and then having a client go, oh, so is this what it means? To then go, yeah, it's as simple as that. It's really satisfying, and it just empowers our clients to be in control of their financial life, to align their money with their lives in order to live a life full of meaning. And it's just a great privilege.
Yeah, absolutely. Loving it. Thanks very much, Rudolph. René, you've also had a lot of various different roles. You've had different hats on throughout the financial services industry and so on. Can you tell us a little bit more, maybe just a brief highlight of what those roles were, and then also how has that shaped how you do things today, and sort of also maybe how you eventually landed up in as a financial planner, because it's quite an interesting journey.
Sure. Yes, I think the way I started up was quite young. I had exposure to a financial planner at the age of 15 when my dad passed away, and this individual entered our family's life and was able to assist my mom at that point in time. And I had firsthand experience where, as Gareth has said, where it's not an industry, it's become a profession. So very similar to a doctor or a lawyer or something of that nature, how this person was able to directly positively impact my family's life and be able to make various changes that the family needed at that point in time. And from there, my career grew from varsity. I went into an independent advice practice, was there for over a decade, sat on the management team, etc. Then moved into a corporate space with Rand Merchant Bank on the advice side. And there, you have a multitude of offerings to clients. You kind of see the workings of a large banking institution and things like that, and then moving back into the independent advice space. So I think the sort of landscape has been broad, sort of been tested on multiple levels with that. But I think what has come with is that each opportunity has had its different learnings. And the financial services industry and our role as CFP professionals, there's always sort of a very distinct underlay. There's a really good foundation that you have, and particularly getting to this point in the competition. But having each individual role, the multitude of offerings and things that you're exposed to has been far wider. So I think with that, there's come significant learning, taking the best from each role, each in sort of situation, and each sort of client interaction across, and then having to deal with those client needs and the different needs, and looking at those clients comprehensively. Because I think, yeah, there's a much wider opportunity that clients are sort of faced with nowadays, and the opportunity sets become a lot bigger. And then you sort of look at the different sides of the balance sheet. I think with running a business as well is that you run a really good business, you have excellent and happy staff, and I think that's also bring a softer element that's not really directly related to our role as a CFP. But we need to remember that our businesses are about our clients at the end of the day, and having staff and staff that deal with our clients is exceptionally important, because that's sort of the touch point that clients have. And with that business and investment process that you refine over a period of time as well within a financial planning business has been rigorous, and it's something that again you need to adapt over a period of time. So you kind of wear multiple hats, and it's always a joke that we say around the office that you're from a psychologist to a lawyer to a financial planner and then a business owner. But I think that's something really unique, and something Gareth spoke about, is that you're not defined by a single role within this profession that we have, and that makes it continually exciting.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Yeah, sometimes when you're in a particular position, you don't. Sometimes you wonder like, why ever, and then sort of 2-3 roles down the road, you look back and you're so grateful for the things you've done before, right? And at that point, you couldn't see where this fit into the puzzle. So it's really always an amazing journey.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rudolph, I know that you also, one of the areas that you excelled in is also around investment planning. So at the danger of talking or getting into the product discussion, let's talk about principles around investment planning. What are some of the principles maybe that you tend to focus on with your clients when you're advising them from an investment perspective?
I think it's a wonderful starting point from a holistic financial planning perspective. And I think it's what René started out with, saying that our first engagement with the client is trying to figure out who they are and what they're trying to achieve, and then pulling all of the little bits and pieces in their life together in order to get them to achieve their long-term hopes and dreams and future aspirations. And one of the tools in the toolkit is investment planning. So how to help clients create and grow their wealth. So we don't have a list of key principles and strategies that we try and push every client into, or like this blueprint or this mold of products that they ultimately need to end up in. And part of the investment planning process with clients is also that client education. It's vitally important. And how I like to consider creating an investment solution for a client is by managing the tension and assimilating three key areas. Number one, getting an understanding through the financial planning experience of what the ultimate goal is. So ultimately, the client needs to earn a X% per year return on average in order to make sure that their capital can grow and sustain their lifestyle. So that's the one component. Secondly, is to look at, well, is the portfolio actually geared towards achieving that return? If it's too aggressive, can we maybe tone it down to be in line with their requirement? Or if it's too conservative, how are we going to coach the client into taking on a little bit more risk in order to make sure that they actually are setting themselves up for future success? And then the third overlay, which is the subjective overlay, which there's been many debates about, is just that risk profile questionnaire to get a sense of how a client would actually feel when they're in a portfolio that is aligned to their future goals. Are we expecting them to be super comfortable with the journey and the volatility in the financial planning space of investments and the investment journey? Or are they going to absolutely freak out when we have to bring in our psychologist armchair? So marrying those three areas are so vital, and it allows us the opportunity to create something bespoke every time, not because we want to be bespoke, because it's what the client requires. And sharing those three areas with each client in the journey is so fascinating to see them make those connections of going, oh, I see why you're trying to get me to invest in something outside of my comfort zone. It's not because we're chasing returns or this hot new thing, but it's because it's what I need in order to live this life that I've always dreamed about. And yes, through going through this financial personality assessment or risk profiler, I have been able to identify areas of weakness in my own approach to uncertainty. So I know that I'm going to have to, in Afrikaans, we say, byt vas, when things get tough, because I know that there's a bigger why behind what we're doing. And then the journey is really wonderful to walk with a client because we've empowered them to understand why we are giving advice in this way or why we're proposing this investment solution. So yeah, the studies and the formal education has just allowed us to crystallize that component of our financial plan, and we've seen great success in putting it forward to clients in that way.
Fantastic. Thank you very much there for that, Rudolph. Righty, so then my last question goes to you, Gareth, because we are running out of time, which is quite sad. Something that is really, really crucial and something that is really challenging in the world that we live in at the moment, and it's just becoming more and more and more, is the world of compliance. Obviously, all the regulatory changes, the regulatory requirements, all of those things. And I'm quite keen to sort of just learn from you, how do you approach this? How do you ensure that you meet these requirements, but you're not compromising the experience and the quality that the client has in terms of their financial planning?
Yeah, I think it leans into what we said earlier, in terms of if your first focus is on kind of looking after your client. I think a lot of changes and new things that get introduced in terms of compliance and legislation is often in response to maybe sort of negative behavior that's been happening, and it's seeing kind of clients being compromised. So, we kind of, first thing, never really fear it. Then from the other side, I think we very much a practice. So we're not sort of a bunch of independent planners working under one roof. We very much kind of take a team-based approach. One of my colleagues, he kind of takes point on compliance, much to René's point earlier, where a lot of us wear different hats within the business. And will keep us up to date on all of kind of the needs and regulations. But then as a planning team, not just the planners themselves, but everybody that kind of works on the support side, we'll often get together and say, right, are there any fundamental changes that are happening? Do we need to look at our planning process or kind of any of our back office processes as well, just to make sure that we up to date and we're keeping what's needed, and communicating what's required as a minimum to clients. And very often, I think the reality is if your mentality and attitude towards this is at that level of professionalism that we spoke about earlier, I don't think it's going to be too much of a hindrance, maybe more of a burden, because yes, it is time consuming and there's a lot of reporting and that needs to be done. But fundamentally, I don't think you should be seeing it as too much of a hindrance to being able to carry on doing business. And bearing in mind that, much like what Rudolph's alluded to on the technical investment side and the compliance side, that's our responsibility to make sure we're on top of that. In terms of a client experience, we've got to set all of that aside and first understand who that person is, build a relationship with them, understand what their relationship is like with their money, and all the nuances that go together with that in terms of themselves and their families, to be able to kind of pull that all together in something that is personal, speaks to them, as well as staying compliant, with regulations and legislation.
Fantastic. Right. So now what I'm going to do is give you each 30 seconds to maybe share with the audience just, maybe what is the one thing, your one wish for the profession. So, René, I'm going to come to you first. What is your wish for the financial planning profession?
I think wish would be for continued professionalism and growth within our profession. We've moved beyond sort of a broker mentality. I think we run exceptionally well-run businesses where we put our clients first, and it's no small feat to manage money. So I think my one wish is that our continued path of professionalism and integrity continues, and that we just continue to build and make sure that we can continue to make something that's even bigger than ourselves today over a period of time.
Fantastic. Gareth?
Yeah, I think from my side, we've spoken a lot about professionalism today, but I think also for us, it's having a pathway for those young, talented people to be able to walk and to learn and have a learnership, and also understand that it does take time to be in a position where you are going to be able to piece all these elements together for a client, and not to be in too much of a rush. Let things happen in good time.
Fantastic. And lastly, Rudolph?
I would love to see a bigger, more vibrant, closer knit financial planning community where there's an even better opportunity for peer-to-peer learning and sharing, because I'm a product of people like me. I'm a product of other financial planners that have spoken into my life and have exchanged ideas. And I know that there's people who are longing for that. I know that there's financial planners out there who are pretty lonely and who are by themselves, always second guessing, am I doing the right thing? And I think as a group of individuals, we can do a lot more. We can become a lot better and go a lot further. And I heard this, I don't want to call it lame or cheesy, but a rising tide lifts all the boats in the harbor. And we get to accelerate that rising tide, because as we individually become better, our whole profession gets better.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Guys, thank you so much. One of the things that you might have realized watching these three gentlemen is that they are all quite young. So they are not the typical stereotypes from the professions. I think our profession is in good hands. So at least from an age point of view. And guys, thank you very much. I really enjoyed the conversation with you all. Good luck to all of you. I will be seeing you at the event. So hopefully I can shake your hands. And Rudolph, we're waiting for your application to become part of Propulsion. So Ladies and gents, for those of you that's been watching us, thank you very much. Gareth, René, and Rudolph, thank you. Amazing. And as I said, best of luck for the awards. So just like that, that's a wrap. So thank you very much for joining us. Next week, we do not have a show, as I mentioned earlier, because it is Women's Day. It's a public holiday, and we are all going to take a bit of a break. So thank you very much. Just keep in mind on that. We will be back the week thereafter on the 16th of August. And looking forward to a fantastic episode then. So until then, go back and watch some of the older episodes or the previous episodes. Go look for something that really is something that you need to look at right now. Maybe there's enough information for you to determine what is applicable to you and what not. But on that note, have a fantastic weekend, great week, and a great long weekend next week. Stay safe, be blessed, and prosper, and continue to raise the bar. Love you. Bye. All right, folks, that's a wrap for this episode of Propulsion. I hope you got as much out of this as I did. Remember to tune in every Friday at 8 a.m. South African time for our live show called Propulsion Live. You can find it at www.propulsion.co.za/live. And trust me, you don't want to miss it. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, hit that subscribe button or the follow button and share it with your friends, colleagues, and anyone else who you think would get something out of it. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.